Hey, welcome back to the website. Matt Allen here. What I want to do today is start a series with you guys on night fishing. I don't want this to be a typical series. I don't want to cover the basics, here's how to throw a worm, here's how to throw a jig, good luck. What I want to do is break this down and be a lot more in-depth. I'm going to cover some of my favorite baits. We're actually going to do that today. Today we're going to talk about topwater. But I want to talk about the other categories as well. So I'm going to give you my favorite baits in the topwater category, in the subsurface reaction category, so fast-moving subsurface baits, slow-moving subsurface baits, so worms, things like that. Then we're going to do jigs as its own category. It's a big topic. So we'll do jigs as its own category. And then, I don't know, we might do one or two others as well, because there are definitely a few things that don't really fit into other categories. Swim baits we'll probably do as its own category, how to throw a swim bait at night. I'm going to take big swim baits, or hard swim baits rather, floating baits, and incorporate them into topwater today. But your soft baits, your sinking baits, they'll probably be their own. And then we're also going to talk about weather, watercolor, moon phases, and how those all intertwine, because that's something that, while I see people touch on moon phases, I don't really see them explaining why it matters and specifically how it applies to you. They may say, fish a full moon, but they don't say, the reason why you fish 2 days after a full moon is for this reason. So we're going to try and get as in-depth with these videos as we possibly can, because I want you guys to be prepared. Night fishing is something that you can do. You can do it year-round. Doesn't matter how cold it gets, it still works. I do it out here while it's snowing. Gets a little more uncomfortable, but you can do it. You can get big fish doing it. Now, I understand that a few of you live in parts of the country, I know Southern California is an example, where as a whole, night fishing really isn't approved of or allowed. And frankly, if you're in one of those areas, it's unfortunate. But there are still some areas down there you can fish without breaking the law. So I'm sure there are other parts of the country that are the same way, but as a rule, just about everybody is allowed to go out and night fish. So I think this is a great topic. It's a big topic, and I think I can shed some light on it that maybe you've never seen before. So we're going to go ahead and just jump on into this thing. This will probably be going on for the next month or so. We'll intertwine it with other videos, but I feel pretty strongly, we're coming into summertime, and even though I do this in the middle of winter and early spring, summer is when most people night fish. So I think this is a great time to get started with it. So let's start with topwater. Obviously, topwater, you want to throw it when it's warm out. Those nights where you get on the water and you're in a... So jumping into these topwater baits, what I want to do is break these down into two categories for you. I throw big baits as well as small baits, wake baits and little baits, but that's not really how I want to break them down today. Today we're going to break them down into baits that are subtle and baits that are not. Basically quiet versus making a lot of commotion in the water. Whether that's with rattles or blades or whatever, but just quiet baits and baits that make commotion. The first one I want to talk about is the snag-proof frog. Bobby's Perfect Frog, designed by Bobby Barrick, made by Snagproof. This is not a bait that you would typically think of as a night bait, but it makes my top 5 list. If you're fishing relatively clear water, we'll say more than 3 to 4 feet of visibility on the bigger half of the moon phase, so closer to the full moon, on a calm night. It has to be calm. If that water looks like glass and those fish are up shallow, this can be deadly. Where other baits would spook them, this one is subtle enough that they stay up there in that shallow water long enough to see that bait. I don't fish it over cover like you would expect. I fish it in the open water just like any other bait. It's just very, very subtle. Moves very little water, makes almost no sound, but they can still see it up against that night sky. They can see the silhouette, and they'll come get it. It's a great option. The other really subtle bait, oddly enough, is the biggest topwater that I throw. It's the JSJ 10-inch wake bait. While it doesn't look like a subtle bait, right, it looks huge, it really doesn't move that much water, and it doesn't make that much sound. When you swim this bait slow, all it's doing is just swimming through the water. The only sound you're going to get is just a little bit of clack out of the joints, but when you're going slow, there's almost no clack. The nice part, though, is that it's going to create a really big V wake out behind the bait, so the fish have no trouble tracking it down. Even though it's quiet, even though it doesn't move a lot of water, there's that big V behind it so they can get to the bait, they can locate it, they can come up on it, and it's still moving nice and slow. The other perk to this bait is some of these other baits I'm going to talk about that cover a lot of water. They're moving around. This bait is going to track slow and straight and is easy for the fish to key on and to not miss. Because sometimes when you're talking about topwaters at night, the fish have a hard time keying on the bait. They'll come up and slap at it, but they miss. A bait going in a straight line is easier for them to really hone in on and get it good and really get the hooks. Those are my two subtle baits. Jumping into my next three, these are in no particular order. The first one, or rather I guess we should say the third one, is going to be the Super Spook. Great bait. I like to throw it in just bone white. It's the only color I throw it in at night. I don't even know why, except that it works. It's a loud bait, lots of rattles. It's going to be a walk the dog bait. I'm sure most people are familiar with it. Pulls fish from a long distance. You can use this in murkier water. Water all the way down to like a foot, foot and a half of visibility at night. They can still track this bait down. They can still eat it. But sometimes you're going to have fish, especially if you're fishing around spotted bass or smallmouth rather than largemouth, some of those fish are going to miss. They're going to be excited. They're going to be trying to just catch up to the bait. They're going to take shots at it and not be able to find it. That's the downfall. The good end of it, though, is that you get a lot of bites on it and big fish are not afraid to eat it. The next one is just increasing in size. This is called the Lunker Punker. I've talked about this bait on this website before, but this is the 6-inch bait and it's injected and it has rattles too. You compare the sound of that one, let me hold these hooks. Compare that one to a Super Spook. You probably know how loud a spook is. It's way, way louder. The Lunker Punker is a bigger presence in the water, but all in all, it's not that big. See, it's not that wide. The fish are still able to catch up to it. Take a good look at that. It's not that much bigger end to end or side to side. It's just the overall girth is bigger. So this bait is louder, it's got a wider walk, and it just creates a bigger presence in the water. Sometimes the big fish won't eat that Super Spook. Some nights they will. They have no problem. But other nights it seems like all you're getting on it is 1, 2, 3 pounders. You put on that 6-inch injected Lunker Punker, you start getting bigger fish. And this one, this is like a bluegill color, but really it's just chartreuse. This one's actually faded a little bit. My favorite is even more brilliant than this. Just a real bright chartreuse belly on it. And again, they can just find it. That's all that matters. I also throw it in a bone type color, just bright white. It's another favorite. The last one I want to talk about is the Buzzbait. Now what's nice about the Buzzbait is there's so many different options with Buzzbaits. You can use a Buzzbait as a pretty subtle option as well. Use a single blade, no clacker, and it's a really subtle option that just creeps through the water. This fish can track it down. Now it doesn't have the presence in the water like a wake bait does. It's just not, there's not as much bait to it. And there are times where that will matter, where you'll be throwing a Buzzbait and just small fish after small fish will eat it. You throw the wake bait and all of a sudden the giants come out to play. But other nights, those giants are willing to eat the Buzzbait. So with Buzzbaits, again, you can go from totally subtle to completely outrageous, just depending on the bait. But for me, when I throw a Buzzbait, it's on the outrageous end. I like to use a great big double buzz, double clacker. It is a loud, loud bait. It looks more like an airplane landing on the water than anything else. I mean, it's pretty outrageous, but it will pull fish up in murky water when nothing else can. So you get all that sound like you would get from, say, a Lunker Punker or something like that. You get all the sound, all the vibration, but it's tracking totally straight. So again, the fish are able to hone right in on it. There's a big trailer hook out there waiting for them. They don't miss. You get a really positive hook set on them. excellent, excellent option. I tend to throw this in the half-ounce weight just so that I can reach it out there farther. As far as brand goes, this one is just a local brand out here. Across the nation, there are all sorts of great double buzz options, but you need to get one. Double buzzers, double clackers on a windy night when they can't track down other baits can just be deadly. And again, just black. That's really, I throw them in black or white. Keep it simple. You don't need to spend a bunch of money on different baits. This will work really well for you. So I hope this helps. Top 5 night baits, fishing in the summertime, throwing topwater. These get it done for me year after year after year on big fish. Good luck out there. We'll jump into the next video over the next couple of days. We'll just keep right on working our way through this series. Have a good one.